Hi guys, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. My name is Megan and I teach 6th grade history and 8th grade English at a middle school here in Southern California. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. I have been making YouTube videos for about 5 years now. I have almost 400 videos up on all kinds of different things related to teaching, so feel free to scroll back and find videos on almost any teaching topic. I'm really excited for this video today. Sharidan from Excellently Elementary invited me to be in this little loop of videos. We are all going to talk about our grad school experiences today. There are a bunch of other amazing teacher YouTubers that are making videos on this same topic today. I got to meet a lot of them recently in Miami at the Impact Driven Teaching Conference, and that was so cool. I love this group of new teacher YouTubers that's coming up. They're full of ideas and super creative, and they have really fun channels. So if you normally watch my channel and you haven't seen theirs as much, definitely go check out all of those videos. I will leave them linked down below. I have a feeling this is gonna be a long one because I could talk about this topic for a long time. So let me just get started. Question number 1 is, what did you study in grad school? I got my master's degree in history. So you end up taking lots of different history courses. So, there was a variety, but then what I wrote my master's thesis on was civil rights leaders in the US Virgin Islands during the era of the Harlem Renaissance. And I looked at the connection between the Pan-African movement that was occurring in New York, which was also started by a lot of Caribbean immigrants, and compared that to the civil rights movements in the Virgin Islands at the same time. So to some people that might sound boring, but I absolutely loved it. The man at the center of my research was named Rothschild Francis, and he's actually my husband's great-grandfather. So it was really cool to be doing some family history at the same time as I was researching for my master's, and I just uncovered this really incredible history about the Virgin Islands and the United States and democracy and imperialism, and it brought up just so many interesting lessons for today. So I like to work in his story a little bit into my classes if I can. I have a resource on Teachers Pay Teachers where I compiled a very small percentage of my research and kind of made it more middle school friendly. So you can check that out if you're interested. I think it's just a fascinating story. Okay, anyway, number 2, how long did it take you to complete your degree? Mine took 5 years. So I started my master's degree my first year out of my teaching credential program when I actually couldn't find a job. I was working at an after-school program at the YMCA, so I did a year there, and then I was working on my master's for my first 4 years of teaching. Number 3, was your degree online or face-to-face? Mine was 100% face-to-face in class. There was no online option for anything. So since mine was a history degree, and it was focused more on people who were looking to become professors and get a PhD in history next, it was very, very focused on reading and discussion and presentation and research, and yeah, you were evaluated on a lot of things that you had to do in person, and so there was nothing online. And my school was about an hour away from where we lived, so I would have to drive after school an hour to class. I think that's, let me see, I think that's one of the next questions. Am I jumping ahead here? Okay, yeah, that kind of mixes with the next question. Number 4, how many classes did you take per semester? It was usually 2 classes per semester, and if you were working full-time, that's all that they allowed you to take anyway, and there's no way that I could have done more than that. So most of my classes were just once a week, and I would set them up so that I took 2 classes in one day. So let's say that they were on a Monday night, I would teach, from 7:30 to 3, and then I would jump in my car. I would drive an hour down to school, to Fullerton. I went to Cal State Fullerton. They have a really great graduate history program there, and I would go to class from 4 to 7, and then I would take another class from 7 to 10, and then I would drive home, get home at 11, and then kind of decompress a little bit, go to sleep, and then wake up and teach again, and then the rest of my weeknights be reading and working on papers and assignments and all of that. So it was a very, very busy time, and there weren't really summer school options, or at least for me, I think my financial aid didn't cover summer school, so I just went during the school year. And plus I always had to work during the summer, and it wouldn't really, I don't know, that really never worked out. So yeah, it took me 5 years. Number 5, why did you choose to go to grad school? Well, for me, there were like 2 reasons. Like, one is logical and then one is not really logical. But for one, where I teach in California, for the most part, if you have a master's degree, you're gonna make a lot more money. So I haven't actually looked at it at the district that I'm working in now, but the district where I was working when I was like completing my master's degree, it was a difference of $8,000 a year. So that's kind of like what kept me going when it would get really tough, is that I would just like look at that salary schedule and I knew like, okay, if I was gonna finish next year, like, okay, next year, $8,000, $8,000. And it cost me a lot of money to get my master's degree, and I'm gonna be paying that back for a long time because student loans suck. But it really does make me a lot more money, and I'm glad that I got it toward the beginning of my teaching career, so that for the next 25 years or whatever, I'm making that larger amount. And so when you multiply that out, I will earn a lot more by the time I retire than I would have if I didn't have a master's degree. And when I retire, I'll retire at a higher pay. The other half of it is just that I love studying history. Like, I just really want to be an expert in my field. The skills that I learned in my program were just like invaluable. Like, I learned to read super fast. I can research like a boss. I can write a 30-page paper with 50 sources, you know, not in my sleep anymore probably, but I pretty much did it half sleeping while I was working on it. I can access information, I can evaluate information. So just the things that I learned, even just like the content knowledge that I gained by doing my master's degree, to me was just so valuable. And I am just a historian at heart. I love history. This is what I wanted to know about, and this is like what I do. You know, I continue to read historical monographs in my free time now. And it's great that I have a master's degree now too, because I could teach history classes at like the junior college level. And then, you know, there's a possibility that I could go back and get my PhD in history. And there is a program that I'm interested in, but it would require like taking a sabbatical and moving. And so that's like a really big decision, like now that I have a child and me and my husband both work. So, you know, I'm not sure if that's gonna happen anytime soon, but I would love it. But I just kind of have like this pull now, because like I love academia and I would love to be in a PhD program and like be a professor, but I also really love teaching middle school, and I love like taking these larger concepts and breaking them down for teachers who aren't college professors, because not everybody's gonna get to college. And there was so much that I learned in college that I think that we should actually bring down into high school and middle school, and there are concepts that we need to be talking about much earlier. And so I'm really passionate about being where I am, like in a middle school setting. And so if one day like getting a PhD helps me to do that more effectively in some way, then maybe I will. But anyway, long answer. I can't even remember the question anymore, but maybe I'll get my PhD someday, but for now I'm teaching middle school. Okay, where were we? Number 6, how much of your time outside of teaching was devoted to your studies? All of it, all of it. Every weekend I would be at the library or at a Starbucks or somewhere just surrounded by a stack of books. I would have a water bottle and original goldfish, not the cheddar goldfish, but the original goldfish, and an iced tea and my laptop, and I would just sit there and research. Sometimes I would also have some carrot sticks, but those are a little bit loud for the library, so not always. But pretty much every single weekend was just dedicated to research and writing. During the week, like when I would come home from teaching, I had to read and then maybe write like a précis or prepare for some kind of a presentation in class. So for pretty much every one of my classes, you would have to read a book a week. So I'd be reading 2 books per week, and then like maybe some articles in addition to that. And you were usually working on your own research project like for the class, kind of outside of that. So I mean, you'd be reading 10, 20, 30 books, just like going through and picking out what you needed and compiling your research and putting together your paper. Plus, you know, I would try to meet with my advisors and my professors whenever I could. And that was difficult because, you know, I was teaching during the day, like when their office hours usually were. So most semesters I would just kind of have to like save up my sick days and take 1 or 2 sick days, like personal days or whatever, you know, per semester to go and meet with my professors, or like you know, access something at the library that I couldn't do in those late hours when I was normally on campus. So it was a sacrifice for sure. Like, this was before I had Jensen. I actually had Jensen a week after I walked to get my master's degree, and then like a couple days later I had to defend my thesis, you know, in front of my advisor and a panel of professors. And I was a full 40 weeks pregnant. Like, I was huge. Like, I couldn't even sit at the table and I had to sit there and defend my dissertation. So that was difficult, but oh my goodness, I can't imagine doing it with Jensen though, like running around like distracting me all the time. Like, it was one thing to be pregnant, but oh my gosh, those of you who go to grad school and teach and have kids, oh my goodness. Kids are so distracting and they are so needy and they know exactly when you need to get work done, and that's when they come find you. My husband recently did his master's degree. Like, for the past 2 years, he's been working on it, you know, while Jensen has been little, and every time he had a deadline, Jensen just found a way to nag him constantly. They're very good at that. What was this question again too? I'm sorry. Okay, number 7. Who supported you? Advisors, admin, coworkers, family and friends? I mean, Derek, I guess. Like, no one understood my master's degree. Like, my admin and coworkers and stuff got their master's degrees in education, and a lot of them were like very easy. They're like, why are you still in grad school, and why are you doing so much work, and why do you never sleep, and why do you look like that? Because theirs were like really easy, and mine was like a full-on research degree. So it wasn't really like coworkers or friends or anyone. None of them understood what I was doing, but it was Derek, really. Like, he was the one who kept me going through everything. I would, you know, I'm like such a nerd, so I would like find some line in an old newspaper and I would be like, come here, like, look at this, like, can you believe this? Or I'd find like an old letter that Rothschild Francis had written to this guy, George Washington Williams, and I would like read him back and forth their exchanges and their insults and stuff, and I would read him the introductions to my papers and like make sure they sounded good. So he was definitely involved all the way through my master's program, and he would like go get me Domino's when I was just like trying to meet a deadline and couldn't stop because I had something due at midnight. So really, yeah, Derek. Number 8 is to share a positive experience. One of my favorite experiences was going to Washington, D.C. during my spring break a couple years ago, and I did research at the Library of Congress. I should have applied for like some kind of grant or something in order to do that, but I just paid for it out of like my financial aid, out of my student loans. But I flew to DC. I stayed with one of my friends who lives there. That was really fun. She kind of showed me around town, and then I spent my days underground, actually, in the Library of Congress, just going through all of these old documents from the Virgin Islands. I found like the original newspapers that Rothschild Francis had published in the Virgin Islands, in St. Thomas, Charlotte Amalie. The Emancipator is the name of the newspaper. So I got to go through all of those and like take pictures, and I was on like the microfiche thing and like saving all my pictures and putting everything on a flash drive. That's like my prized possession. So I really actually enjoy the research part of it. I just thought that was so much fun. Like, you know, if you do research, like when you come across like that one picture or that one quote that like pulls together this argument that you've been trying to make, there is like nothing like it. So I really enjoyed the research process, to be honest. Number 9 is to share a stressful experience and how you overcame it. So one really stressful period of my master's degree was my second to last semester, when I was like early in my pregnancy. I was so tired. I didn't know that pregnancy hit you so hard right at the beginning. So I was in this like medieval literature class, and I was just behind on like every single deadline, and I just had to tell my professor, like, I was like, I've never done this in my life, but I need to ask for an extension. I am so tired. It makes me sick to like look at my computer screen for too long. And I was so stressed, and I was so afraid that she wasn't gonna like grant me an extension. And I had a 4.0 all the way through my entire master's program, and I was afraid I was gonna lose my 4.0, and I did actually manage to hold on to it all the way through. And I was able to like meet with my professor, and she was very understanding, and she was able to like take my stuff late and everything. But oh my goodness, the beginning of that semester, I was just like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. And I would go to class, and I'd be like sitting there in class and just like feeling woozy, and I would have to go to the bathroom like every 10 minutes, and it was so hard to concentrate. So that part of it was very difficult. But oh my goodness, when that semester was over, I was just like, I can do anything. I can do anything. I can even give birth now. Number 10, what advice do you have for teachers who are hesitant about grad school or are having a hard time? So I think my number one advice would just be to make sure that getting a master's degree is actually going to help you financially. I know that there are some states where you have to get a master's degree like within 5 years. And then there are some states, I have a few friends who got a master's degree, and when they look at how much they're making now versus how much it cost them to get that master's degree, it doesn't even out. They're not being paid very much more from what they would have been paid anyway, and so it really, really wasn't worth it. But like for me, it was worth it. But then I had a baby the second I got my master's degree, so all of my raise and more goes to paying for daycare. But thank goodness, you know, I did that, because otherwise I have no idea how we'd pay for daycare. So look at your actual expenses and your salary schedule and all that and make sure that it's worth it. And then I would just say, research something that you really like, or study something that you're really interested in. If you want to study like technology in the classroom or something more related to administration, or if you want to get a master's degree like in your actual content, like science or history or math or whatever, I mean, that's what I suggest, because I feel like that's more useful in the long run, more useful like outside of a school setting if you ever want to get into something after teaching or on the side or whatever. But another thing is too, if you're interested in getting into administration, a lot of times you have to get a master's degree or like take a bunch of classes in order to have an administrative credential. And so don't like take a bunch of classes for one master's and then a bunch more for an administrative credential if that doesn't also give you some kind of a raise. So just sort of like think long term, like how is this graduate degree going to actually help you? Like I've been thinking long term about, you know, being a professor one day or working in a credential program, teaching at a junior college, maybe teaching summer school classes in a history department or something like that. So I can see how long term my history degree will help me outside of just what I teach right now. So yeah, those are all the questions. I have a couple of other videos about my grad school experience and I can link those as well. I talk about this a lot because I loved going to grad school, even though it was torturous. So my journey was a little bit unique, and you might be more interested in a master's degree more related to education. So I have a feeling that a lot of the other people doing this tag pursued master's degrees in education. So don't forget to check out all of those videos. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let me know if you're new here so that I can say hi and meet you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.